Gravity and Grace by Simone Weil. To accept the void. Tradition teaches us as touching the gods, and experience shows us as regards men that by a necessity of nature, every being invariably exercises all the power of which it is capable. Thucydides. Like a gas, the soul tends to fill the entire space which is given it. A gas which contracted leaving a vacuum. This would be contrary to the law of entropy. It is not so with the God of the Christians. He is a supernatural God, whereas Jehovah is a natural God. Not to exercise all the power at one's disposal is to endure the void. This is contrary to all the laws of nature. Grace alone can do it. Grace fills empty spaces, but it can only enter where there is a void to receive it. And it is grace itself which makes the void. The necessity for reward, the need to receive the equivalent of what we give. But if, doing violence to this necessity, we leave a vacuum, as it were a suction of air is produced, and a supernatural reward results. It does not come if we receive other wages. It is this vacuum which makes it come. It is the same with the remission of debts, and this applies not only to the harm which others have done us, but to the good which we have done them. There again, we accept a void in ourselves. To accept a void in ourselves is supernatural. Where is the energy to be found for an act which has nothing to counterbalance it? The energy has to come from somewhere. Yet first there must be a tearing out. Something desperate has to take place. The void must be created. The void, the dark night. Admiration, pity, most of all, a mixture of the two. Bring real energy. But this we must do without. A time has to be gone through without any reward, natural or supernatural. The world must be regarded as containing something of a void, in order that it may have need of God. That presupposes evil. To love truth means to endure the void, and as a result, to accept death. Truth is on the side of death. Man only escapes from the laws of the world in lightning flashes, instants when everything stands still, instants of contemplation, of pure intuition, of mental void, of acceptance of the moral void. It is through such instants that he is capable of the supernatural. Whoever endures a moment of the void either receives the supernatural bread or falls. It is a terrible risk, but one that must be run, even during the instant when hope fails. But we must not throw ourselves into it. Detachment. Affliction in itself is not enough for the attainment of total detachment. Unconsoled affliction is necessary. There must be no consolation, no apparent consolation. Ineffable consolation then comes down. To forgive debts, to accept the past, without asking for future compensation, to stop time at the present instant. This is also the acceptance of death. He emptied himself of his divinity. To empty ourselves of the world, to take the form of a slave, to reduce ourselves to the point we occupy in space and time. That is to say, to nothing. To strip ourselves of the imaginary royalty of the world, absolute solitude. Then we possess the truth of the world. Two ways of renouncing material possessions: to give them up with a view to some spiritual advantage, to conceive of them and feel them as conducive to spiritual well-being. For example, hunger, fatigue, and humiliation cloud the mind and hinder meditation, and yet to renounce them. Only the second kind of renunciation means nakedness of spirit. Furthermore, material goods would scarcely be dangerous if they were seen in isolation and not bound up with spiritual advantage. We must give up everything which is not grace and not even desire grace. The extinction of desire, Buddhism, or detachment, or amor fati, or desire for the absolute good, these all amount to the same, to empty desire, finality of all content, to desire in the void, to desire without any wishes, to detach our desire from all good things and to wait. Experience proves that this waiting is satisfied. It is then we touch the absolute good. Always beyond the particular object, whatever it may be, we have to fix our will on the void, to will the void. For the good which we can neither picture nor define is a void for us. But this void is fuller than all fullness is. If we get as far as this, we shall come through all right, for God fills the void. It has nothing to do with an intellectual process in the present-day sense. The intelligence has nothing to discover. It has only to clear the ground. It is only good for servile tasks. The good seems to us as a nothingness, since there is no thing that is good. But this nothingness is not unreal. Compared with it, everything in existence is unreal. We must leave on one side the beliefs which fill up voids and sweeten what is bitter. The belief in immortality, the belief in the utility of sin, etiam peccata, the belief in the providential ordering of events, in short, the consolations, which are ordinarily sought in religion. To love God through and across the destruction of Troy and of Carthage, and with no consolation. Love is not consolation. It is light. The reality of the world is the result of our attachment. It is the reality of the self, which we transfer into things. It has nothing to do with independent reality. That is only perceptible through total detachment. Should only one thread remain, there is still attachment. Affliction which forces us to attach ourselves to the most wretched objects exposes in all its misery the true character of attachment. In this way, the necessity for detachment is made more obvious. Attachment is a manufacturer of illusions, and whoever wants reality ought to be detached. As soon as we know that something is real, we can no longer be attached to it. Attachment is no more nor less than an insufficiency in our sense of reality. We are attached to the possession of a thing because we think that if we cease to possess it, it will cease to exist. A great many people do not feel with their whole soul that there is all the difference in the world between the destruction of a town and their own irremediable exile from that town. Human misery would be intolerable if it were not diluted in time. We have to prevent it from being diluted in order that it should be intolerable. And when they had their fill of tears, Iliad, this is another way of making the worst suffering bearable. We must not weep so that we may not be comforted. All suffering which does not detach us is wasted suffering. Nothing is more frightful, a desolate coldness, a warped soul, Ovid, Slaves and Plautus. Never to think of a thing or being we love, but have not actually before our eyes without reflecting that perhaps this thing has been destroyed. or this person is dead. May our sense of reality not be dissolved by this thought, but made more intense. Each time that we say, "Thy will be done," we should have in mind all possible misfortunes added together. 2 ways of killing ourselves: suicide or detachment. To kill by our thought everything we love, the only way to die. Only what we love, however, he who hateth not his father and mother, but love your enemies. Not to desire that what we love should be immortal. We should neither desire the immortality nor the death of any human being, whoever he may be, with whom we have to do. The miser deprives himself of his treasure because of his desire for it. If we can let our whole good rest with something hidden in the ground, why not with God? But when God has become as full of significance as the treasure is for the miser, we have to tell ourselves insistently that he does not exist. We must experience the fact that we love him, even if he does not exist. It is he who, through the operation of the dark night, withdraws himself in order not to be loved like the treasure is by the miser. Electra weeping for the dead Orestes. If we love God while thinking that he does not exist, he will manifest his existence. Imagination, which fills the void. The imagination is continually at work, filling up all the fissures through which grace might pass. Every void, not accepted, produces hatred, sourness, bitterness, spite. The evil we wish for, that which we hate, and which we imagine, restores the balance. The militiamen of the Spanish Testament, who invented victories in order to endure death, an example of imagination filling up the void. Although we should gain nothing by the victory, we can bear to die for a cause which is going to triumph, not for one which will be defeated. For something absolutely denuded of power, it would be superhuman. The disciples of Christ. The thought of death calls for a counterweight, and this counterweight, apart from grace, cannot be anything but a lie. The imagination, filler up of the void, is, essentially, a liar. It does away with the third dimension, for only real objects have 3 dimensions. It does away with multiple relationships. To try to define the things which, while they do indeed happen, yet remain, in a sense, imaginary. War, crimes, acts of revenge, extreme affliction. The crimes in Spain were actually perpetrated, and yet they resembled mere acts of boastfulness, realities which have no more dimensions than a dream. In the case of evil, as in that of dreams, there are not multiple readings, hence the simplicity of criminals. Crimes flat like dreams on both sides, on the side of the executioner and on the side of the victim. What is more frightful than to die in a nightmare? Compensations. Marius imagined future retribution. Napoleon thought of posterity. William II wanted a cup of tea. His imagination was not strongly enough attached to power to be able to span the years. It turned towards a cup of tea. The adoration of the great by the people in the 17th century, La Bruyère. This was a result of imagination filling up the void, a result which has disappeared since money has been substituted for it. 2 base results, but money, the baser of the 2. In no matter what circumstances, if the imagination is stopped from pouring itself out, we have a void, the poor in spirit. in no matter what circumstances, but sometimes at the price of how great a degradation imagination can fill the void. This is why average human beings can become prisoners, slaves, prostitutes, and pass through no matter what suffering without being purified. We must continually suspend the work of the imagination filling the void within ourselves. If we accept no matter what void, what stroke of fate can prevent us from loving the universe? We have the assurance that, come what may, the universe is full. Renunciation of time. Time is an image of eternity, but it is also a substitute for eternity. The miser whose treasure has been taken from him. It is some of the frozen past which he has lost, past and future, man's only riches. The future is a filler of void places. Sometimes the past also plays this part. I used to be, I once did this or that, but there are other cases when affliction makes the thought of happiness intolerable. Then it robs the sufferer of his past. Nessun maggior dolore. The past and the future hinder the wholesome effect of affliction by providing an unlimited field for imaginary elevation. That is why the renunciation of past and future is the first of all renunciations. The present does not attain finality, nor does the future, for it is only what will be present. We do not know this, however. If we apply to the present the point of that desire within us which corresponds to finality, it pierces right through to the eternal. That is the use of despair, which turns the attention away from the future. When we are disappointed by a pleasure which we have been expecting, and which comes, the disappointment is because we were expecting the future, and as soon as it is there, it is present. We want the future to be there, without ceasing to be future. This is an absurdity of which eternity alone is the cure. Time and the cave. To come out of the cave, to be detached, means to cease to make the future our objective. A method of purification, to pray to God, not only in secret as far as men are concerned, but with the thought that God does not exist. Piety with regard to the dead, to do everything for what does not exist. The suffering caused by the death of others is due to this pain of a void and of lost equilibrium. Efforts henceforth follow without an object and therefore without a reward. If the imagination makes good this void, debasement, let the dead bury their dead. And as to our own death, is it not the same? The object and the reward are in the future. Deprivation of the future, void, loss of equilibrium. That is why to philosophize is to learn to die. That is why to pray is like a death. When pain and weariness reach the point of causing a sense of perpetuity to be born in the soul, through contemplating this perpetuity with acceptance and love, we are snatched away into eternity.